Everybody, Megro31 back here for FSI DFS. I'm going to be breaking down the main or evening slates for FanDuel and DK in this video. If you're looking for early slate information, just pause this video, go to our channel. We did that one if it's before 1 p.m. Go and check out that information, build your lines, and come on back and we'll explain the night information. So once again, FanDuel and DK cannot agree on a start time. FanDuel is starting at 6:07. They're adding multiple extra games into their slate and making it, I believe, a 10-game slate. DK, I think, was supposed to be a 6-game slate, but since Oakland and Baltimore washed out yesterday and it's playing as part of doubleheader, they cut the doubleheader part off of the back end of it. That's, I think it's down to a 5-game slate. So there is a turbo DK slate that starts at 6:40. So let me start talking about a little bit of the FanDuel early games and DK turbo, and then we'll just get into DK main. So the first game on the FanDuel slate, like I said, would be the Baltimore-Oakland game, the first game of the doubleheader. It looks like it's going to be washed out. Not interested in it at all. Passing on that. I'm not going to play it. Wouldn't be surprised if it's canceled and the slate starts at 6:40. At the same time as the DK turbo. Yankees play Detroit. There is some rain issues there potentially. Have to keep an eye on that. If it looks good to play, I think Severino is a really good pitcher on FanDuel as an option potentially. You only get one pitcher there, so I think Rondon, and we'll get to that in the later breakdown, is going to be like the clear-cut number one. But if you're trying to get some bats in here, and there's more expensive options on FanDuel with some of the early games, and there's DK with the late games, I think Severino, he has actually pitched in the 80s. I know he had a couple of years off, come back from injury. He looks good, high strikeout potential against this Detroit lineup. So if the weather's fine, I'm okay playing him there. Really not touching much else in this game. Maybe some of the Yankees hitters if the weather looks okay, but winds blowing in 13 miles per hour, cold temperatures, wet, not really a great hitting environment. St. Louis and Miami is the second game. So it's Mikolas and Alcantara. Really like Alcantara here. If you're playing the DK slate, I think Alcantara and Severino and the Turbo are going to be my SP1 and SP2. If it rains out, then I think Mikolas against the Marlins is okay. Alcantara is a decent right-hand pitcher, good against righties. Most of the St. Louis lineup is righties. The final game early on is the Angels in Houston, Ohtani versus Odorizzi. Ohtani, you don't know if you're going to get Roger Clemens or Roger Rabbit. He just seems like he has a great game or he gets blown up. Houston isn't as potent as they have been recently. So I think he's okay to try to play there. He'd be my third. I don't think he's really an option on FanDuel with trying to get like the quality start and the other elements. I think Alcantara, Severino, or definitely Rondon, maybe even Bassett are going to outscore him there for that slate. But I think if you're looking at the slate and Severino's game is rained out, then I think it's going to come down to Mikolas or Ohtani. I think Ohtani has more upside, but a little bit riskier there. I would not play Odorizzi. Odorizzi, Angels got to him the first time out. They didn't like completely light him up, but he did really struggle in his second start. It wasn't against the Angels. So I really think if you're playing early here in this turbo, the Angels are going to be your number one stack. I think you mix in some Houston and then look for some cheap bats on New York or maybe Miami if you're playing the turbo slate there. For FanDuel, I really like the Angels against Odorizzi. So that kind of covers the early game. So now let's jump into like what the DK main slate is going to be. The first game on DK main is going to be Arizona and Washington. Both pitchers, I think, potentially could be used. Kind of like Kelly more than Fetty. Fetty is a reverse splits guy. I think he's priced way too much at 8.3 for what you're going to get. He's a sinker ball pitcher, so I think that kind of maybe neutralizes Marte and Peralta, but I do like Varsho and Christian Walker against him here. Maybe even Seth Beer has a little bit of power. So I think there's some bats in Arizona that can get to him. Kelly has had a lot of strikeouts in his first two. Maybe it's just the matchups. I really, I keep on saying Nelson Cruz doesn't really scare me. Soto is really the only guy in this lineup that does. So I think that Kelly in the mid range would be the top pitcher that I'd like today. For bat wise, I think Arizona have some cheap like one offs that I would take potentially. Washington, I don't think I'm really interested in them as a stack at all today. Toronto and Boston, I think it's going to be a very popular game. It's 9.5 total. You have Jose Barrios and Nick Pivetta. Barrios is a low K guy, but he has enough stuff, I think, to neutralize this Boston lineup. He's really tough against righties, so they only have a couple lefties usually in the lineup with Devers and Verdugo, maybe Jackie Bradley Jr. down towards the bottom. So I think that he's one that's going to be very popular as an SP2 just with his pricing at 7.3. It seems really, really low there. But I don't know if he's going to generate a bunch of Ks. I think maybe he eats some innings and does well. Red Sox total is decent at 4.48. I think I prefer Kelly over him in this range. But again, I think Barrios is going to be popular just with the namesake and the price tag on him. Pivetta, I'm fading. He's a fly ball pitcher in Fenway Park, which is really even splits pretty much too. He's given up power. His strikeouts are down this year. He's almost reminded me back. One of my first tournament takedowns was when I stacked against Pivetta when he was a Philly. I think it was against the Cubs years back. And I think he's kind of reverting back to that form because it seems that when he first came on the scene, he was like a gas can. And it seems like he kind of figured it out. And now it seems like he's kind of reverting back to where he was starting to on the down home slope of his career. And so I think Toronto is clearly the top stack on this slate for DK. Like FanDuel, I said, I think, it's going to be the Angels and Toronto neck and neck there. But I think the Jays are really going to hit well here, especially the righties. The way Fenway Park is configured there with the green monster there, I think, it's good for right-handed power. And I think Pivetta is going to get tagged tonight. And I think the Jays are going to be a really good stack. And there's some nice cheap pieces in here too. Like Collins hit a home run yesterday. He's potentially batting fifth at only 2.6 for a catcher. And Tapia has the splits advantage too. He's cheap for an outfielder at 3.5. And Espinal has really actually been a good contact hitter at the bottom of the lineup. So don't mind some of those pieces there. For the Red Sox, I think I would only take the left-handed batters against Barrios, kind of as some one-offs. Now you have the pitching matchup of the night. Carlos Rondon and Chris Bassett. Both are off to really good starts. The weather's going to be really cold here, 53 degrees. No rain or anything to worry about. I think this is going to be a very low total game. I'm not touching a batter on either side of this. Rondon is clear-cut the number one pitcher. He was a really good pitcher over the last couple of seasons. I know there were some concerns at the end of last year, but I just think he was overworked a little bit. Just needed the summer off and a little bit rest. He's come back. Spring training looked good in his first couple starts. Definitely is K'ing some batters, has the highest K prop on the slate. So definitely you're going to lock him in. He's probably your cash pitcher on FanDuel. We only get one. And I think he's a cash pitcher here too. Bassett, I think, is a really good option to pair with him, but to try to get the Toronto stack in, that's going to be a little bit difficult. So in the breakdown section at the end of the video, we'll try to figure out how we can have our cake and eat it too, where if we're trying to pay up for two pitchers, how can we construct a lineup? And I think there is a gift team out there tonight with some very, very, very cheap batters in a really good situation that's going to make it work. Okay, now we have a really interesting situation here. Tampa Bay and Chicago. It looks like potentially 100% chance of rain in the later on innings, but not bad early on, maybe like a 40% chance to start the game. I'm hoping that storm kind of stalls because there are like 25 to 26 mile per hour winds blowing out of the stadium to left field. So I think the pitching is risky here. If for some reason the front's going to completely miss and this game's going to play, and that's fine. I like Stroman, I think, more than Rasmussen. I don't really think you need them on the slate. I know it's kind of smaller with not many options. Stroman's a ground ball pitcher, and there are some Ks in this Tampa Bay lineup. So I think he was definitely clear cut the one that I look at 7-6 over Rasmussen. However, if this game is going to play and if they can get most of this game in, I really like stacking right-handed batters on both sides here. And I'll get to that in the GPP breakdown if the wind's going to be blowing out that much. Next game is Minnesota at Kansas City. You have Chris Paddack and Daniel Lynch here. Chris Paddack, I think, has some K upside. Kansas City has been striking out a bunch at 5'9". He could give up some runs too here. So I think he's cheap but risky, but I think out of the cheap pitchers, he probably would be one of the better options. Lynch really struggles against right-handed batting, so and there's really not that many left-handers in the lineup. I think looking at the projected lineup, there are a lot of righties here. In Minnesota, this is the gift lineup here. So if you look at it, if Buxton is back in, he's expensive. He's $6K, but might be worth it in this matchup. But Polanco hits lefties better than righties, so he's good there. Correa has struggled to start out the season a little bit. He's 4.9, but I think, he's definitely good here. But you have Garlick potentially hitting fourth in this lineup at 2K, minimum price outfielder with the split advantage, who isn't bad against a pitcher that struggles against his handedness. Like, sign me up. Gary Sanchez, even, who I hated as a Yankee because he was like K'd so much. But only at 2.8 in a good matchup, he's potentially good there too. Even Sano batting down the lineup, cheap catcher at 2K, Ryan Jeffers with the splits advantage. Celestino at potentially at 2K. There are so many good plays here to fill out your lineup if you're trying to pay up for both pitchers and a Toronto stack. I think this is the golden ticket to do it. Kansas City, not super interested in. I think a GPP stack if Paddack has an off day. But other than that, I think, if I'm doing a 20 max and stacking every team, maybe that, but really no interest other than that. The final game is Seattle and Texas. This could be another low scoring pitcher duel because both of the top of these lineups have some power to it, but both of the bottom lineups have some Ks and are pretty bad. So Logan Gilbert, I think if he can get past like Simeon and Seager, the rest of this line, and maybe even low, the rest of this lineup on down with Cahoon and Heim and Solik, I think, he can get some Ks there. So I think he does give up some power. So you might give up like a home run or so, but I think he's the third option. And I think he's a good pivot in GPPs off of Rendon and Bassett. If you want to mix him in and do like Rendon Gilbert or Bassett Gilbert, just be different if everybody's going to pay up for Rendon and Bassett, or if they're going to throw Barrios in as their SP2. I think that gives you a little bit of differentiation there. And Dunning, I don't really mind either because the Seattle team, even though they've improved and picked up some of those Seattle guys like Winker and France and Frazier don't strike out a ton, but the bottom of the lineup does. So I think Dunning can get through enough to be able to, I don't think there's a win equity here, but I think he's, as a cheaper pitcher, he's able to get through a little bit more expensive than Paddack. The Paddack at 5.9 against KC that's been striking out might be the better play, but I think Dunning is a solid option here also. So, like I said, pitching wise, Rendon, Bassett, clear cut number ones there, and I think Gilbert you can mix in too. Kelly I like in the mid range. I know most of the people are going Barrios, Stroman maybe, Rasmussen. Even if the game plays, I'm not really confident. The game's probably going to rain out, but just in case, I just want to mention those. Paddack has the K upside there. Dunning, Lynch. I'm not on Fetty or Pivetta. For stacked wise, Toronto, if you're playing a FanDuel, the Angels would be right there with them. I think the Cubs and Tampa Bay could be an amazing spot if the wind is blowing out and the game looks like it's going to play. Boston, I think against Barrios is a low-K pitcher. I think the lefties I like there, and the rest of the teams like Texas, Seattle, Kansas City are all okay. Minnesota, I think, is in a great spot. Arizona, I like them as being sneaky also, especially against reverse splits, Fetty. So some of the right-handed guys there. I just have to watch, like you said, Marte Peralta struggle against sinkers and not touching the Mets in San Francisco. So let's look at couple lineup constructions and we'll get you on your way to build your lineups tonight. So we'll start DK up here. I think Rondon clear-cut top pitcher. If you want to put Baston in, that's fine. I think Collins or Sanchez would make a really good catcher choice here. Vlad at first base. Urshela, I think, is very, very cheap righty lefty matchup for Minnesota. It's a good one there. Burchett, Springer, and then Garlic, I said at 2K. So then you just have to figure out what you want to do here. Like, throw in another 2K Minnesota one and pay up at second base, or Espina might fit okay at second base, or if you want to put Tapia in there to get more Toronto exposure, I think Polanco might fit well at second base there, and then you might have to punt another outfielder if you're trying to pay up for Bassett. If you're paying down for like Kelly or Barrios there, it's going to give you more salary to plug in some of those guys there. Looking at the FanDuel slate, like I said, Rendon, I think, is your clear-cut SP1. If you want a little bit more cash to try to get some bats in, then Alcantara or Severino would work. I think you need to choose like Vlad or Walsh there. You might be able to play the other one in the utility spot. Collins, I think if you play at one of those or utility, it gives you more to get better bats in your lineup, so you're not punting. Rendon, I would put at third. Trout or Springer. If Trout's not in the lineup, then obviously put Springer in there. Marsh and Garlic. And then, like I said, just you want to fill in with other Toronto ones. So if you can get Bichette in there, it's shortstop. If not, then maybe you can get Cray in there from Minnesota. Second base, Polanco, Espina, like I said, and then utility, whatever works to round off. Maybe take a one off from another game or something, whatever you think is going to differentiate your lineup to be solid enough floor for cash. But maybe if you enter in a tournament, you have the one guy in a really good matchup in your utility spot or one of these blank spots that's going to be different than everybody else. And if he hits a home run and nobody else does, then you've got the nuts right there. Okay, so going on to GPP lineups, and if you're looking down at the FanDuel GPP one, that's more like for DK, so just don't pay attention to that. We'll get to that in a second. So up top, I think I'll use Dunning there, but I'm also okay to use maybe Paddock or Kelly here, maybe throw in Gilbert as your SP, or match them up with Rondon or Bassett, however you want to do it there. Just differentiate picture, but I'm going with a combination of three teams here for the batters. I'm going to take the guys that I really like for Arizona, which would be Varsho and Walker. Varsho, you can play in outfield also. I like Devers and Verdugo, the left-handed batter. Maybe Jackie Bradley Jr. you can put in there for Boston, and then I want to fill in with Minnesota bats. If Buxton's in, I'll definitely try to figure out how to get him in 6K in the outfield there. Correa, Polanco, and if you want to steal some of the cheaper ones from the cash lineup to fill things out, that's fine too. Looking down at the bottom, like I said, this is I put in the FanDuel spot, but it's more for DK. If this Cub and Tampa Bay game is going to play, I am taking these right-handers here. I'll figure out the pitchers. I'll make my lineup, and then I'll figure out the pitchers with whoever fits here. But Contreras, Swindell, Diaz, and Franco from Tampa Bay, Suzuki, Happ, and Arizona. I think those are really solid right-handed batters. If the wind's blowing that far out that fast into the left field, I think, that definitely is going to I don't mind playing some of the lefties if you want to fill them in different spots. Also, if you want to put Lowe in there or Ortega or, switch one of these guys out, that's fine. But again, if this game looks like it's going to play, I don't think I'm putting like a ton of money on this. I don't think I'm playing in the top GPP, but like the $1, the $4, like four seamer or something like that. I think I'll throw in a stack just to see what happens, just because with that win in Wrigley Field, we've seen good things happen, and maybe it'll happen again tonight. So that concludes the breakdown. Sorry, between the two sites and start times and stuff, it's kind of all over the place. It's a messy slate, but I think we have enough. I think, definitely pay up for pitching and try to get as much Toronto in there, and Minnesota is the key to the slate. And I think that gives you a good solid cash lineup for GPP. Like I said, take some of the one-offs in good situations. Change up your SP2 if you don't go Rondon Bassett. Throw some Gilbert in there, some Kelly, Barrios, maybe some Paddock, Dunning. I think those are the ones you're really looking at. And then see what happens. So appreciate you watching. Again, I'm Mega Ruler 31. If you have some questions, put them down in the comments below. We'll try to get back to you. Hit me up on Twitter at Mega Ruler 31, and we'll see what we can do. We can't prove like full lineups for you for the slate, but we can answer some 1v1s, or if there's like a change in pitcher, or like somebody that's unexpected is out, or weather conditions change, then we'll definitely try to help you out with those things. If you want more information about FSI DFS, you can look in the description of the video, and then the link to our Discord is there, and to our website where you can sign up for our packages. We're actually very, very, very cheap, very affordable, and everybody that's come in has, have been successful, and we've really helped a lot of people, at least recover their money that they spent to subscribe, and then made more. So our Discord community is a bunch of really great guys, and we actually met a lot of them making these videos. So that's what we're here for. We're here to help you. Again, appreciate you watching. Give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time.